don't particularly want to make this video, but I will because I don't have any barred from all my social media accounts for the time being, so I got right. But anyway, so I just have to explain how politics works in this country, right? So yesterday I read it's been 4 years since Tomb, the bodies were discovered in Tomb, and they have yet to be exhumed. The babies' bodies in the cistern pipe. So for 4 years, Fine Gael have left a crime scene with babies rotting corpses um, in a cistern pipe and have not done anything about it. 4 years. It's a crime scene. 4 years. There's babies' body corpses rotting in a cistern pipe, and Fine Gael have not done anything about getting those bodies exhumed. 4 years later. Um, so anyway, what I'm trying to say is what has happened. So since I've been politically paying attention at all, tuning in to Irish politics since I was approximately about 15, began tuning in, up to date, and it's always been Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, who are both right parties. I call Fine Gael the Irish Nazi Party and Fianna Fáil the Banks Party. And the Green Party, who are in coalition with them now, the Recycling Party, because that's as deep as the Green Party gets. So what happens anyway? What happens every time that there is a problem in this country? Something arises, no matter what it is, different thing every time. What happens is they rush into it. They try to cover it up. They try to ignore it. They try to ignore it. They try to keep it as low key as possible. After it's passed in the news, the general public thinks that it must have been resolved, or just forget about it. And every time, what the government is doing, they you can see it in their faces. Like every time something happens, like the situation just spirals out of their control. They're like, "Eesh," they fucking their heads down. They try to run away, and they run away from the problem every time. And to leave it, abandon it to the next party to have to deal with the issue. And they do this every single fucking time that something happens. This is the exact same thing that happens every time, no matter what happens, no matter what fuck up they do, what thing just happens out of nowhere. Every time you can see it in their faces. They're just there going, I hope people don't notice. They put their heads down. They run away from the problem and try to leave it and want to leave it to try and leave it to the next government to have to deal with it, the problem, like in this case, like reparations or whatever, if that's the right word. Like the cervical smear as well, they haven't seen a fucking penny as far as I know as well. The cervical smear cancer survivors, who some of who have died since then, also haven't seen a penny because they outsourced the fucking thing to an American company, and they gave them back the wrong fucking test results, and then people had cancer and they weren't diagnosed with cancer, and some people have died since then, and as far as I know, they haven't seen a fucking penny either. This all been Fine Gael's government, like, by the way. They run away from their problems. They hide. They want to leave it to the next subsequent government to have to deal with, so they can. It's their attitude is, the ship is sinking, save yourself. And they try to get out of the thing so that hopefully that by the time it comes out, it's the next government's problem. They get to walk away, not have to deal with it, with their full pensions intact, and get to live the sweet life, or retirement life, having run away from their problems. And this happens the entire time I've been paying attention to Irish politics, like internal Irish politics. The exact same thing happens. Exactly every time, no matter which party it is, no matter what the problem is. They always ends up the exact same. And the next time, there's a chance that the opposition might actually win, and they're going to be the ones that have to deal with if there's an economic collapse because of having to pay, because they will actually go and give these reparations to the survivors. And if there's an economic collapse, then it's going to be the opposition's fault, even though it was Fine Gael's problem and they never dealt with it. And now Leo Varadkar is living in fucking Ibiza with his boyfriend Matt, and they're having a great laugh, a great life, and they get to have fucking live it up, plush for the rest of their life, like. And but if those governments had any integrity, they would see this fucking pattern happen, like as I've fucking seen it from the outside, and they would stop running for fucking government. If they had any integrity, they'd stop running for government and they'd leave it to the opposition to deal with it. Because if you took them, if they weren't in it to make a profit, they would cut the problems in half tomorrow that they create. They're always looking for the quick fix solution that makes them look good, and if they can make a few quid off it, they're all the better. If people before profit led the government, the problems that would be created would be halved tomorrow. So yeah, I just had to explain what the fuck the story with Irish politics is, because it's an absolute disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace, and the exact same thing happens no matter who's the fucking Taoiseach, no matter who's in charge. It's always the exact same thing with them. And in the end, they're always running away from the problems that they've created, like. And they don't want to know, and they don't want to know, and they don't want to fork out. They don't want to fork out a fucking dime, like. Because they really are that fucking shallow, and they're rats on a sinking ship. And it happens every time without fail, like. Whether it's their fault or not, they always handle it in the exact same way, and that's to hide it out, try to hide it out until they fucking retire and they get to leave with their fucking full pension, which is an exorbitant amount of money for a politician. Anyway. Oh, and by the way, Bertie Ahern, like, Bertie Ahern was fucking guilty of fraud, and what the fuck is the story with that, like? Because I saw that interview and he was absolutely crystal clear that he had a fucking Swiss bank account and he was guilty of fraud, and yet he's still getting his fucking pension. So what's up with that, like? Because he absolutely committed fraud, like. And that public interview, clearly incriminated him, and yet he's getting his full pension too. And when it comes to money, that's when people, like, that's when people get, like, sensitive when it comes to money. But for some reason, Bertie Ahern, he said he didn't have a bank account in Ireland while he was Taoiseach. So that's all you need to know. Like, Irish politics, it's the biggest con job here around, like, going, like. Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.